Okay, good evening. This is the public information meeting for Waco MPO on May 23rd, 2022. The time right now is 5:45, and we begin with this presentation. Here we have Annette and I, and we do not have anyone online joining us. So in today's meeting, we're going to discuss what Waco MPO is. We will discuss transparent performance management, how we use them in our planning purposes. We'll review the proposed travel time reliability performance targets, which will be on the policy board agenda for their voting and adoption at the next meeting, and also discuss the public comment opportunities that will be there starting today up to for the next 10 days, and also during the public policy board meeting. So an MPO, Metropolitan Planning Organization for Waco, we provide the local input into the long-term regional transportation decisions. So we are responsible, our planning area is the entire McLennan County that we cover. We prioritize all the regionally significant projects that have realistic funding possibilities associated with them. We also decide how the highway and the transit funds get used within the region, and how the local governments and the TxDOT assist in the process in identifying the priorities. At the same time, we also we're also comprehensive in our thought process about how future transportation network and the overall transportation system should work for all the users within our region. All the metropolitan planning organizations were created to serve areas that reached 50,000 population. Our MPO is governed by a 20-member policy board, and we're also advised and informed by a technical advisory committee that is representative of all the local governments within our planning area. Coordination and consensus building are the main roles that we pursue to plan and fund transportation projects within the area as part of our long-range planning, as well as our transportation improvement program. So let's discuss briefly what transparent performance management are. It is a strategic approach that was adopted as part of the FAST Act, and it uses goals and measures and data to make better informed decisions about how do we prioritize and where to invest our transportation funding, which is always in scarce supply. And so we try to make the best decisions that are as data informed and as measurable as possible. This became part of our requirements through the FAST Act, and the goal of it is to improve the performance of the national transportation system, which focuses on efficient delivery of goods, as well as safe and reliable journeys to work, school, shopping, and community activities. Lastly, mostly these performance measures are supposed to allow us, help us make better decisions about the performance of the overall transportation system. So our long-range transportation planning and short-term implementation programs, MTP and TIPs, which we develop, they have to demonstrate how the performance-based decision process are in place that go back to measurement of the performance targets and be able to report on them, and then incorporate them as we evaluate our performance targets into our future plans. There are 5 important performance targets that are required. One has to do with safety, the other one has to do with asset condition, pavement and bridge condition, travel time reliability, public transportation asset condition, and also public transportation safety. Previously, we had adopted the safety targets for roadway and also transportation asset condition for public transportation safety, and now today we're going to talk about the travel time reliability. So currently, we are considering the travel time reliability targets for the year of 2026. So what is it? It's largely about consistency and dependability in travel times, mostly because most road users do not remember their travel experience in terms of an average. They often remember the worst times of the worst experience that they have in any given month or a given quarter, and that's what informs their decision-making process. So travel time reliability is really a measure of how much of the traveling occurred in extreme conditions where it took a lot longer, not necessarily based on national annual average, but more in terms of the percentage of worst experiences of the total amount of experiences that people have. It is very important because most businesses are not only in our area, but nationally have moved on to just-on-time delivery system to minimize consumer costs. And what it means is that delivery has to occur not only on time, it can't happen before time or after time, both of which are expensive. We in fact have data that during cardiac arrest, survival rates decrease by 7 to 10% for every minute of delay. It also affects labor productivity negatively. So typically in most cases, if the workers cannot get somewhere on time reliably, if they cannot plan for it in a consistent manner, it ends up affecting their productivity, the performance, and simultaneously also ends up affecting how often they reach work in time, as well as go back home in time so that they can attend to their family and social networks, which also has disruptive effect on our social lives. But even more importantly, we expect reliability on transportation network, just as we would expect them in all other networks that are part of the enabling urban existence in every metropolitan area, every urban area. Some of the most important causes for reliability challenges happen because if there are bottlenecks, weather-related systems, traffic systems that do not operate as expected, work zones, accidents, special events, and general demand fluctuations also can affect the reliability negatively. So how do we measure them? There have been many different ways that we have considered measuring them, called travel time index, buffer index, everything on the left-hand side, all the different measures we have come up with. Of all of these, MAP 21, which was the one prior to FAST Act, came up with a final rule on deciding that level of travel time reliability and truck time reliability. These are the two most important measures we will use for performance measure related to reliability. And the same LOTTR, level of travel time reliability, and truck travel time reliability moved on to FAST Act, where they were mandated to all NPOs to be adopted. LOTTR measures the ratio of 80th percentile, which is the longer portion of travel time, to 50th percentile, which is the average travel time. And it's measured for both interstate and non-interstate highways. And any number of above 1.5 in the travel time index is considered unreliable. TTR is specific to freight and the truck traffic, and it measures the ratio of 95th percentile, longer time travel, to 50th percentile travel time. So that 50th percentile is the average travel time. Measured only for interstate, it is not measured for non-interstate highways. FAST Act required that NPOs must establish very specific targets for their regional areas for each metropolitan area, and they must adopt these targets prior to the state DOT, which for us is the Texas DOT. And we also have to demonstrate how some of these targets go into our planning process. We report on system performance every 4 years, and our current forecast year that we're considering is 2026. And NPOs and TxDOT, both of us may consider a mid-course correction in 2 years if the conditions are trending very differently or something peculiar that occurs. So just to get us back on thinking about the Waco NPOs region, in 2020, 11% of regional lane miles existed on system roadway, but they accounted for 60% of regional travel. The point being that a large majority of regional travel actually happens on system miles. And Waco, and last time we adopted a similar target for our on-system roadways was in 2018. This is a map of all the interstate highways, that's in blue, that is 35, and the non-interstate national highway system components that are shown here in red. So there are 3 separate performance targets that we established. First is the percent of person mile traveled on the interstate system that is reliable. The second one is the same on non-interstate system. And the third, the truck travel time reliability index. Here's a past performance. So we notice on the left-hand side that the interstate LOTTR, the actual data are in blue. And from 2017, it begins. And we notice that it was almost 100% until 2019 when it declined to just above about 88%. In 2020, it went back up, but that's probably attributable to COVID-19. And in 2021, it declines again. The projected LOTTR are based on 2019 data point, and we can notice we notice that it's mostly centered between 85% to 90%. For non-interstate LOTTR, we notice that it is fairly consistent, above 95% or close enough to it. And the projected LOTTR similarly are based on the 2019 base data, and they're projected to be just below 90%. Finally, the truck travel time reliability, the indices, we notice that it shows a lot more variation, and it begins at just below 1.4 in 2014, and it gets quite poor in 2021 at almost 1.75. The projection that begins in 2020 is based on 2019 data point, and it remains, and we expect it to get worse by 2026. All of these targets are estimated based on actual data by Texas Transportation Institute for all MPOs throughout the state of Texas. So for 2022, the targets that we're proposing to use is for 80% for interstate all traffic, 85% for non-interstate all traffic, and 1.78 index for the freight traffic. We adopt in 2022, we had adopted them at 80% for LOTTRs and 1.75 for trucks. For 2024, it was revised to 80, 85, and 1.75. For 2026, our target is maintain 80% for all traffic, 85% for all traffic on non-interstate travel, and 1.78 travel index for trucks. So we requested at our last policy board meeting that we be authorized to conduct a 10-day public comment period, which begins today on May 23rd, and it will go on till June 1st. We will present our public comments to Technical Advisory Committee for their recommendation on June 2nd. And based on their recommendation, we'll move forward to presenting it to the policy board for their adoption at their June 16th meeting. So this concludes our presentation. If anyone had joined us virtually, this is time for us to have a discussion or clarify or answer any questions. We do not have anyone registered to speak or ask questions. So at this point, we will stop the presentation.
I would go down and at least put.
Oh, yes, thank you. So the comments are accepted through June 1. This was our public information meeting now. And public hearing and policy board action will also occur on June 16, 2022. So if anyone could not, feel free to reach out to us for any of the comments you might have, as well as make sure that June 16 is on your calendar. That's when policy board is going to take action and there will be open public hearing. Any questions, comments, or ideas, our phone number is 254-750-5653. You can email us at npo@wacotexas.gov, or on Facebook, you can tag us and mention NPO with travel time reliability for comments. We can accept comments in any language, and the comment cards are accessible on the NPO website in the Get Involved section. Thank you. Okay, should we end the Zoom call? Is 5:58 or wait till for another 2 minutes?
I would go
5:30 to 6.
I would end it. We can post this.
I want to wait till 6.
Okay.
1 more minute.
I've never had anybody attend a meeting on performance measures.
I am not surprised.
It's hard to communicate it. why and why it's important.
Well, some of it is, no, so, see, I mean, in many ways, I mean, I can just sort of see. So when I was in Jackson, I would often treat the NPO as you don't know what you're doing. It's not like you have any authority capacity to do much anyway. Whatever money we could get, it's small enough that it's not going to make that much of a difference. And as far as that, arterial and on system stuff, you're going to do what Mississippi DOT tells you. See, I mean, I can see where the challenge is. And NPO, the CMPDD, their response was, okay.
What can they do, right?
Yeah, I mean, their attitude was also like, and one of the city council members who served on the policy board, he would keep coming back to the policy board, and I'm going to end this now, Mr.